Hello, class. This is the Management 510 Strategy Planning Final Project Overview. Today's topics are going to be a review of the project purpose. We're going to have an overview of option 1, overview of option 2, the tools and frameworks from the class, and then a summary of the different projects. And there you can see there's me. I'm Dr. Camerata. The project purposes are to convey an understanding of the strategy creation process. And second purpose is to identify specific examples or actions of strategic planning activities as specifically related to your selected organization. As you can recall, you selected an organization in week 2 and you provided an outline of what the potential for the strategy creation process would look like within that organization in week 4. So remember, as you create your final project, that you are attempting to show that you understand the strategy creation process and that you've identified examples of planning activities and applied them to specific circumstances. Option number 1 is a white paper. And in this white paper, you've been asked by your manager to put together a summary to help the executive team better understand the concepts and principles of a well-designed strategy process. And the white paper needs to include a set of examples of strategy planning activities that are specific to the organization that you've chosen. Now, for the purposes of this assignment, consider that what you're creating is going to be used as the basis for discussion at an upcoming executive team retreat. So that's the function of the document. The paper should be between 5 to 7 pages long, not including the title, reference pages, or appendices. Should conform to the CSU Global Guide to Writing and APA requirements, again, for your in-text citations, running head page numbers, title page, and reference formats. And you need to include at least 8 scholarly references in addition to your textbook. You can find these in the weekly lectures throughout the class. You're going to present strategy concepts, theories, and principles that are important for the senior executive leadership team to understand in the strategy creation process. And in the paper, you should include a minimum of 7 examples of strategy planning activities designed specifically for your selected organization. And you'll provide a clear and understandable title of each of your example activities, along with a brief overview description of 1 or 2 sentences for each one. You're going to have an appendix in this paper, Appendix A. You're going to include the titles of the example activities with more complete descriptions for each one. In your appendix, you're going to include the benefits and value of each activity specific to your organization. In other words, why should they use this? What's it going to do for them? And then you'll include at least one original table or figure that relates to your selected company. But I do recommend that you include more. I recommend you include diagrams and graphics showing the different frameworks and tools that you're discussing. The second option is a presentation. And the presentation context is that you are a consultant working for a consulting company that specializes in strategic planning. And you've been assigned an independent project to work with a major high-profile client who is the CEO of your selected company and who has asked you to develop a more effective strategy planning process. Part of your job is to help the executive team better understand the concepts and principles of a well-designed strategy process. The presentation needs to include a set of examples of strategy planning activities specific to your chosen organization. And these, again, as with the white paper, the concepts and examples that you present are going to be used as a basis for discussion in an upcoming executive team retreat. The presentation should be between 10 to 15 slides long, not including a title, reference pages, or appendices. It should include extensive notes in the notes section of the presentation, so make sure that you are including notes for each of your slides. It needs to conform to the CSU Global Guide to Writing and APA requirements. And in addition to your textbook, the presentation needs to include at least 8 scholarly references. As with the white paper, you can find these references generally in the weekly lecture, or you can find them in the CSU Global Library. You're going to present the strategy concepts, theories, and principles that you believe are important for the senior executive leadership team to understand in the strategy creation process. You need to present a minimum of 7 examples, although I don't recommend going above, more than this, but 7 examples of strategy planning activities designed specifically for your selected organization. You're going to include a clear and understandable title of each of your 7 example activities along with a brief overview description. And in Appendix A, you're going to provide a more detailed description, including the benefits and value of each activity. Why are you recommending that they be used? What benefits can they provide? What kind of outputs can the managers expect to get? You need to include at least one original table or figure. However, as with the white paper, I recommend that you include at least a graphic showing the different frameworks that you're recommending and applying. Again, don't just copy these from external sources, recreate them on your own. Word has a good graphic capability, as well as PowerPoint has a good graphic capability. Make sure that they're original, and then again format them, including the captions and titles and notes according to APA standards. The wrinkle here with the presentation is that after you've done your background analysis, you're going to make 3 specific recommendations to your client regarding initiatives that this organization needs to address for their future success. So these need to be relevant to the results of what you've done in your paper and relevant to the tools that you describe. Throughout the class, we've learned about different tools and frameworks, and what this final project is really about. It's about describing these tools and frameworks, 7 of them. It's about indicating that you understand how they work and then applying them to a specific company, and then kind of synthesizing it all to show how the tools that you've selected form an appropriate strategy planning process for that particular company. In Module 1, we have the levels of strategy framework. In Module 2, we've got key success factors, the PEST analysis, the EFE matrix, Porter's 5 forces. In Module 3, we have the IFE matrix. Module 4, types of competitive advantage matrix, internationalization matrix, risk and innovation matrix. Module 5, we've got product lifecycle, industry structure, and competition matrix. Oster's 6 forces framework, the stakeholder power interest grid. Module 6, organizational structures, and Module 7, operating and innovating matrix. So these are the tools that you can use in your paper. And so what we're really talking about here is describing, explaining, and applying 7 of these to yield an overall planning process in your chosen organization. In the narrative section of both the presentation and the paper, you want to describe the purpose of each framework or tool. What information does it yield, and why would you use it? Describe each of the elements that make up the tool or framework. Describe what information is required to populate the tool. In other words, what types of data are required. And then describe how the tool or framework supports the strategy planning process. In the appendix for each the paper and the presentation, you're simply going to provide more detailed information about 1 through 4, and you're going to include perhaps a graphic or a table or a figure showing how this particular framework or tool is constructed. So in summary, what you're really doing in this project is describing and applying tools for strategy planning in a way that provides a comprehensive process that you're recommending to your client. The process is valid because you are using specific examples that illustrate the purpose of each tool framework and how each can be used within an organization. And so all of the information is available within the class website. Again, for tool specifics, you can look at the references for the lectures, or you can go to the CSU Global Library, look at the discussions, look at your text. There's lots of different ones. All the information you need is out there. So if you have any questions and comments, let me know. Send me an email. You can leave comments on the class website. You can leave me a voicemail message. And so I am available. This is a pretty straightforward project, However, it does require a lot of time to put this together so it's meaningful. So good luck on your final project.